So when you're first getting into knife sharpening, you probably heard this statement: don't use too coarse of a stone when you're learning how to sharpen or you'll ruin your knife. You'll remove way too much material and your knife blade will just wither away to nothing and you'll scratch up your knife and it's not going to be a good time. Don't use too coarse of a stone when you're learning to sharpen. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is absolute nonsense and it's simply not true, and it's actually bad advice. That's kind of like saying you don't want to take your car to a racetrack to learn how to drive better because you're afraid of ruining the tires. At some point, you're just going to have to accept the fact that you're going to have to pick a knife to learn on, and maybe you get a couple of scratches on it, maybe you screw up the bevel a little bit, but you're just going to have to pick a knife in order to sort of be a guinea pig and learn to sharpen with. Now, the reason that I recommend a very coarse sharpening stone in the beginning is for this very reason. Let's say that we have an angle. This is an angle guide that you get with the Sharpening diamond stone here. We're just going to use this as a reference. This is the 14-degree side. Now, let's say that we have a magic sharpening stone that allows us to apex the knife in one single pass per side. That side's done. That side's done. We've completely apexed and formed a perfect point in the middle. We formed a burr in one single pass. Pretty much everybody on the planet would be able to learn to sharpen very easily. The problem is that we don't have magic sharpening stones, right? We have coarse grit sharpening stones instead. And what these allow us to do is they allow us to get our perfect angle and maintain that angle for a much shorter period of time than we would if we were starting on a finer, say 1000 grit stone. And if we are maintaining an angle for a shorter period of time, it allows us to maintain a more perfect angle over that period of time. So on the coarse grit stone, we're having to maintain this perfect 14 degree angle for maybe 20 or 30 passes before we've apexed. If we were on a 1000 grit stone, like the Shapton kuromaku 1000, then those 20 or 30 passes, whatever I just mentioned, that very few amount of passes is all of a sudden going to turn into hundreds, if not maybe thousands of passes. So now we have to maintain this perfect 14-degree angle on our 1000 grit stone, and that gives us a whole lot more opportunity to mess up our angle. And that's not good. What we want to do in the very beginning is we want to it's not practice makes perfect, it's perfect practice makes perfect. So we want to perfectly practice holding a perfect angle. The same principle applies to anything in life. In order to learn something very complicated, you need to break it down to its core components and practice those core components until they are perfected before moving on. Maybe if I throw them again incorrectly like that for another 1,000 times, I'll eventually get it. I want you to learn how to sharpen. I don't want you to get frustrated after your several hundredth pass on a 1000 grit stone and your knife's still not sharp and give up. I want you to learn how to sharpen, and I want you to apex. If your knife is not apexed and sharp off of a coarse, say 320, 400, or 220 grit stone, like these stones right here, and I'll leave links to all the stones that I recommend down below in the description. And this stone right here is $20, and if your knife is not sharp coming off of this $20 stone, if it does not physically feel like it would cut you or cut a piece of paper, then it is not going to get sharper going to a 1000 grit stone. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make, is they use too fine a stone in the beginning. And another reason I'm saying this is because this is exactly how I learned. I started on a stone that was way too fine in the beginning, and I literally got frustrated and turned the stone over to the coarse side, the side that people told you not to use unless your knife was extremely damaged. And I just ground the crap out of it. And what do you know? After a handful of passes, I felt the edge and it was sharp. I just stopped caring about ruining my knife and I ground the crap out of it and it became sharp. So This is how I recommend other people learn as well. Pick a knife that you don't mind practicing with and practice on holding a perfect angle for a handful of passes on a coarse stone like this. Go slow, practice perfectly, and eventually it will all come together and you'll get a sharp knife. I will leave a link to a complete 5-minute or so beginner tutorial in the description below that you can check out. And I'll also leave links to all of the beginner sharpening stuff that I recommend down in the description below. Anyway, I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. I bet you've never thought you'd see someone juggle in a knife sharpening video. It's first for everything.